Donald Trump just detonated a political bomb that could bring down an entire government. And the British Prime Minister? He's scrambling for survival. In a late-night interview that sent shockwaves across the Atlantic, Trump made a stunning claim. Britain's Labour government has been secretly negotiating an immigration deal with the EU. A backdoor agreement the British people never voted for. Within minutes, Downing Street erupted into chaos. If this story proves true, we're watching one of the biggest political scandals in modern British history unfold in real time. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications because this situation is evolving by the hour and you won't want to miss what happens next. It started with a simple question during Trump's televised sit-down in Washington. When asked about Britain's direction under Prime Minister Keir Starmer, Trump didn't hold back. "I know things the British people don't," he said, leaning forward with that signature confidence. "Starmer's making secret immigration deals that nobody voted for." The room went silent, then exploded. Within seconds, social media ignited. The words Starmer, secret and immigration trended worldwide. Trump's claim was specific and devastating. Labour officials had quietly negotiated with EU leaders to allow thousands of new migrants into the UK in exchange for favourable trade terms with Brussels. All of it hidden from the public. The British government's response? Deafening silence, no denial, no clarification, just panic. Sources inside Downing Street described the atmosphere as electric with fear. Senior Labour ministers were seen rushing between emergency meetings. One insider told reporters, "They're not afraid of Trump. They're afraid of the truth getting out." And then the leaks started. Documents began circulating online, purportedly showing communications between Labour advisers and EU officials discussing humanitarian entry quotas and Labour mobility programmes. While their authenticity couldn't be immediately verified, the timing was explosive. Millions of Britons who already questioned Starmer's vague immigration stance now felt betrayed. Trump wasn't finished. He hinted there was more. Emails, diplomatic memos. Hard evidence showing Labour's intention to quietly reopen migration routes that Brexit had closed. Whether calculated political warfare or genuine whistleblowing, Trump had achieved something remarkable. He'd placed himself at the centre of a foreign government's collapse. And this time, the chaos didn't stay in Washington. It stormed straight into Westminster. By morning, Starmer's cabinet was in full meltdown mode. Journalists cornered ministers with the same question on repeat. Did you make a secret immigration deal? None had a clear answer. Labour MPs fumbled through prepared statements, while Starmer himself vanished from public view for 48 hours. The optics were catastrophic. What made Trump's accusation so dangerous wasn't just the claim itself. It was how believable it sounded. For months, critics had accused Labour of planning to realign with the EU. A secret migration pact fit perfectly into that narrative. And with Trump's massive platform amplifying it, the story became unstoppable. Headlines screamed across Britain, "The secret deal." Protesters flooded Parliament Square demanding transparency. The pound wobbled on global markets as investors, haunted by Brexit-era instability, began pulling out. Starmer's government was in free fall. Within hours of Trump's statement, investigative journalists began digging. What they found was circumstantial but damning. Flight records showed multiple trips by senior Labour advisers to Brussels over the past 6 months. Meetings not listed on official calendars. Hotel bookings under generic descriptions. The kind of operational security usually reserved for sensitive negotiations. Then came the leaked correspondence. An email chain between a Labour policy advisor and an EU migration official discussing flexible entry frameworks and mutual humanitarian commitments. The language was deliberately vague, but the intent was clear. They were exploring ways to increase migration flows while maintaining political deniability. Another document, allegedly from the Foreign Office, outlined potential immigration cooperation mechanisms that would allow easier movement of workers and asylum seekers between the UK and EU in exchange for reduced trade barriers. None of this was smoking gun-proof, but it painted a picture. And in politics, perception is reality. Then came Starmer's press conference. Standing outside Downing Street, visibly exhausted, he faced a wall of cameras. "Let me be clear," he said, eyes darting to his notes. "This government has made no such agreement." But his voice trembled, his hands shook. Minutes after he finished speaking, Trump fired back with a single post on Truth Social. "He's lying. The papers exist." The internet exploded. Within an hour, #StarmerSecretDeal was the top trend in the UK. Even Labour MPs began demanding answers. One senior backbencher went on live television calling for an internal inquiry. "If the Prime Minister has nothing to hide," she said coldly, "he should prove it." Inside Number 10, the mood shifted from panic to siege mentality. Starmer's top strategist urged total transparency. "Release everything," he argued. "Show them we've got nothing to hide." But the legal team pushed back hard. Releasing diplomatic communications could violate confidentiality agreements with Brussels and set dangerous precedents for future negotiations. The Prime Minister sat between these two impossible choices, paralysed. Come clean and potentially expose sensitive diplomatic processes, or stay silent and watch public trust evaporate. He chose silence. History will judge whether that was courage or cowardice. The scandal jumped borders. In Brussels, EU officials went into lockdown mode, refusing to confirm or deny anything. But anonymous diplomats began whispering to reporters about exploratory talks that were not meant for public disclosure. European media ran with it, framing it as confirmation that something secret had been happening. Paris issued a diplomatic jab. Transparency must be the foundation of modern diplomacy. Berlin stressed that trust between allies is sacred. Both statements were polite. Both were devastating. Britain's credibility, painstakingly rebuilt after Brexit, was crumbling again. In Moscow, state TV ran gleeful headlines. "Trump exposes British hypocrisy." In Beijing, analysts called it proof that Western democracy was fracturing from within. For adversaries of the West, this was propaganda gold. For Britain, it was humiliation on the world stage. British tabloids went into overdrive. "Starmer's secret shame," screamed The Sun. "Brexit betrayed," declared the Daily Mail. Even traditionally Labour-friendly outlets like The Guardian couldn't defend the government's handling of the crisis. Their editorial asked a devastating question. If there's nothing to hide, why the silence? Television news ran continuous coverage. Political analysts dissected every frame of Starmer's press conference, pointing out body language that suggested deception. The avoided eye contact, the tight jaw, the way he gripped the podium. One clip went especially viral. A journalist asking, "Prime Minister, yes or no, did your government discuss immigration frameworks with EU officials?" Starmer's response, "We engage in routine diplomatic conversations across a range of issues, not a denial." A dodge. Social media amplified and distorted everything. Conspiracy theories flourished alongside legitimate questions. The truth probably lay somewhere in between, but truth had become a casualty of the information war. Markets hate uncertainty, and Britain was drowning in it. The pound fell 3% against the dollar in 48 hours. The FTSE 100 shed billions in value. International investors, already nervous about UK stability post-Brexit, began reassessing their positions. The Bank of England released a carefully worded statement about monitoring developments and standing ready to ensure financial stability. Translation: they were preparing for potential crisis. Business leaders began speaking out. The head of the CBI called for clarity and transparency from government. The British Chambers of Commerce warned that political instability threatens economic recovery. The message was clear. This wasn't just a political crisis anymore, it was becoming an economic one. Outside the Westminster bubble, ordinary Britons watched with anger and resignation. In working-class communities that had voted for Brexit to take back control, Trump's revelation confirmed their worst fears. The establishment was trying to undo their decision through backroom deals. In Remain voting areas, many were equally furious, not at the idea of cooperation with Europe, but at the secrecy. "If you believe it's the right policy," one London voter told reporters, "have the courage to argue for it openly." Protest movements that had been dormant since Brexit roared back to life. Both Leave and Remain activists found common cause in demanding transparency. Strange bedfellows united by a shared sense of betrayal. Leaked audio from an emergency Labour meeting revealed voices raised in fury. "We told you this would blow up," one MP shouted. "You can't hide deals with Brussels forever." Then came the rebellion that would change everything. Cabinet ministers prepared resignation letters. Labour MPs broke ranks publicly. "The Prime Minister must face the people," one declared. "Only a general election can restore trust." Inside Parliament, opposition leader Rishi Sunak delivered the kill shot. "The Prime Minister has lost the confidence of this country. The British people will not be governed by deception." Thunderous applause, even from Labour's own benches. When the vote came, the tension in Parliament was suffocating. MPs filed into the chamber in silence. The public galleries were packed. Cameras captured every moment for the history books. Starmer's response was defiant but hollow. He spoke of political games and foreign interference and standing firm against smears. But his own MPs sat stone-faced. Some stared at their phones, others at the floor. The result wasn't even close. The government lost by 42 votes. A massive rebellion, with 19 Labour MPs either voting against their own government or abstaining. The chamber erupted. Opposition MPs cheered. Labour MPs sat in stunned silence. Starmer closed his folder, stood slowly, and walked out. His statement outside Downing Street was brief and bitter. "I have heard the verdict of this House," he said, voice tight with controlled rage. "I fundamentally disagree with it, but I respect our democratic institutions. I will call a general election." He took no questions. He simply turned and walked back through the famous black door of number 10, perhaps for the last time as Prime Minister. Trump posted again. "The people deserve the truth. Glad to see democracy working." Protesters outside erupted in cheers. News alerts flooded every screen. Cameras captured the image that would define his downfall. A leader consumed by the very secrecy he tried to control. But this story is bigger than Trump or Starmer. It's about the collision between old-style secret diplomacy and new-era radical transparency. It's about whether leaders can make complex decisions in private, or whether everything must now be conducted in public view. It's about trust in an age of instant information and viral misinformation. About how a single claim, true or false, can spread faster than any fact-check can catch it. It's about power, who has it, how they use it, and what happens when citizens decide they've been deceived. Britain stands at a crossroads. Will voters reward or punish Starmer's Labour in the coming election? Will the alleged secret deal prove to be real or manufactured? And what does this mean for democracy when a foreign leader can influence another nation's politics with a single interview? We're tracking every development in this story. Subscribe and hit notifications so you don't miss a single update. This election will determine Britain's direction for the next decade. Drop a comment. Was Starmer secretly negotiating with the EU, or is this a political hit job? Do you think Trump helped or hurt Britain by making these claims? The debate is heating up, and we want to hear from you. Share this video with anyone who needs to understand what's really happening in British politics right now, because what happens next could reshape Western politics for years to come. The truth has a way of coming out. The only question is, whose truth will win?